What is up, guys? Welcome. This is Breakfast with the Brand, the number one podcast in the world for entrepreneurs and leaders who want to take their brands to the next level. I am your host, Junior Frederick, and I have with me the man himself, Mr. Bobby Stealth. And guys, today we have a phenomenal show for you. If you are tuned in live, go ahead and put your flames in the comments and let us know where you're listening in from. Bobby, what's up? How you doing?
Doing phenomenal, Junior. Good morning. Good morning. And this morning I was working on some MVP stuff. I was working on some client work. It was just a good productive morning. You know how you get up and then you just knock a lot of stuff out. And by the time 8 o'clock rolls around, you're like, man, I've done like a day's work, a good day's work, and it's only 8 o'clock. So that's how I feel. How about yourself?
I feel pretty good, man. I feel pretty good. I feel like I'm sort of like you on a sabbatical.
Mm.
Except I'm still working. Except I'm still working. I'm taking, a little step back, but I'm not quitting. There's a difference. So if you're in the ring with somebody, if you're in the ring with an opponent and your opponent starts to step back, it doesn't mean that they've given up.
Mm.
It means that this guy or this girl, she's taking a step back so she can come back at you with full force. And that's sort of how I feel,
Yeah.
to give you a mental image of what's going on in my head.
Oh,
So
that's
yeah, that's how I feel, man.
nice, nice. I wonder how you guys are feeling. Put it in the chat how you're feeling. What's your energy? One, what's the energy in the room? But two, if you've got a particular aura about yourself this morning, go ahead and share that with us. Today's topic is definitely going to be a continuation of what we discussed yesterday. I've got some questions that I'm going to be asking Junior throughout the call today. But Junior, before we go to the break and really kick this thing off, I'm not sure if we're going to dive right into it or go to a break first. But I'm interested to see what the people need on the marketing side. Like, are y'all struggling with email marketing? Are you struggling with direct response marketing where you're trying to get someone to take action on the information that you put out there? Like your CTAs aren't working. What part of the marketing process is giving you trouble? Do you not know who your audience is? Like the ICP, the ideal client profile is just not working. You're posting, but people aren't connecting. Talk to us about what that looks like. What that looks like.
Yeah. So Bobby, we're gonna go to the break. 60-second break, guys. When we come back, I want you to do something for me. I want you to start assembling your marketing questions. And if you don't have a pen and if you don't have a notepad, I need you to take notes. You to take notes. What's written will be retained. I'm about to drop a couple bombs on you. You don't want to miss it. If you're in any kind of business, it could be online, could be offline, could be brick and mortar, could be online store, could be e-commerce, could be coaching, could be consulting, could be whatever. If you sell something, you're gonna want to be here for this. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
There's slow growth and then there's scale. There's incremental growth and then there's exponential growth. What I want to talk to you about is adding a zero to you and experiencing exponential scale. Incremental growth says 1 plus 1 is 2. Exponential growth says 1 plus 0 is 10. Incremental growth says 2 plus 2 is 4. Exponential growth says 5 plus 0 is 50. Guys, listen, when you add a zero to you, you can add a zero to the marketplace. You can add a zero to the value that you bring. So you can add a zero to your family, add a zero to your legacy. This is what we're talking about. We're not talking about incremental, we're talking about exponential. I always say that business is a spiritual game. Just imagine when you combine your skills, your values, your abilities, your talents to something bigger than you, something greater than you, something like the power of exponential. That is adding a zero. Add a zero to your competence, add a zero to your confidence. This is about adding a zero in your life, your value, your industry, and your mission. Let's grow.
All right, so let's get into it. Where do we start? Let's start by defining the subject. Let's start by defining marketing. So what is marketing and what is advertising? So there's a difference between marketing and advertising. So write this down. Advertising is the science of making known. So basically, how do you make people know you exist? That's called advertising. So basically, putting something out there. If you can put something out there on a flyer, word of mouth, on a train, next to a train station, on a business card, on anything, on a website, that is a form of advertising. Word of mouth. Like if I come on it and I say, go to www.bradleyphoover.com, that's advertising. Marketing is where you're tracking every single dollar, every single spend, where you're doing more things in a repeatable, measurable, and documented manner that you could actually track. Okay, I put in this amount, I get out this amount. That is the difference. Which one should you be doing? You should be doing both. You should be advertising the business, but then you should also be engaging in direct response marketing. So that's how you literally drive results. Today, we're going to be talking about the latter, which is direct response marketing. Now, I'm going to sort of leave the floor open to questions because honestly, there's so many areas where I can go that I'm gonna let Bobby open up with maybe a question or two, and we're gonna kick off from there. If you have any questions, put it in the chat. If you're trying to get your business to the next level, if you're trying to get your marketing to the next level, you're not quite sure why, this is the opportunity to ask those questions. So go ahead, put them in the chat. I will be answering every single question that we have from now until the top of the hour. So let's get into it.
All right. First question for you, Junior, is I'm not a marketer. So where do I start to begin marketing my business?
Great. So the first point of marketing is grabbing attention. So you want to master the science of grabbing attention. Now, I'm gonna, just for simplicity, I'll just be talking about online marketing. If you market online, you want to learn how to grab attention online. So that's where you should start. Now, when it comes to attention, I was explaining to a class, in fact, very recently, that you have to understand people's logical or psychological sort of flow. Very simple things. For example, the way people read things is not what you think. Most of us think people read stuff in a linear manner, meaning that they read from A to B, from B to C. You know as well as I do, Bobby, if you're online, the first thing somebody does is they look at your photo. So they look at the photo or they look at the content, the photo or the video that you put out. So in order to start marketing online, you have to master the art of capturing people's attention using photography, videography, and if you're on, let's say, like Twitter, then how do you capture that? Just using words. So mastering the art of capturing attention is the first place you need to go. And I actually have a couple tips for people as far as the attention is concerned. So first thing you want to do, if you're on video, you want to be able to create movement. So create movement, create irregular movement. So you'll see some ads come up and a guy is either spraying a money gun or he's jumping out of a Bugatti or he's doing something crazy. He's jumping from a cliff. How many of you, like put a one in the chat, if you've ever been up on Facebook past 11 o'clock and there's these videos of people like building pools, like they're digging they're in a forest and they're like digging holes and building pools. And Bobby, I tell you, man, I stayed up one night. I was about to go to bed and this video popped up and there's like two guys in the forest and they're digging out this yard and they built a pool and they're showing you how they build a pool. How many of you know what I'm talking about? Or they'll be doing something crazy like cooking on a rock in the in the middle of the jungle. They're next to the river, they're catching the fish, they're cooking it on the rock there. And it's just an amazing process. So why does that capture our attention? Because it's irregular. So you want to think out of the box, think irregular, think how can I do something that's not common that involves movement that could capture somebody's attention. So if you're in a coaching space, how can you do something that's creative, that's what everybody's doing, but that creates some kind of movement so you could get people to stop long enough to actually read your copy. Like nobody's gonna read your copy if your photo doesn't capture them. The photo has to stop them and capture them, and then they read the copy to see what you're talking about. So that's number one. You have to learn how to create movement. And the movement that you want to create is movement that is interesting and irregular. So think interesting, think breaking the normal thought pattern, think irregular, think movement that provides indicators of what your ideal clients want. So your ideal clients, they may want, let's say they want money. How can you show a video with money? If they're looking for family, maybe they value family, how can you show a video where you and your family are walking at the beach or on a family vacation, or you're showing indicators of a good family life? If they're looking for a good marriage, you're showing indicators of good marriage. How can you portray indicators of the desires of your ideal client? So that would be the top thing, Bobby, when it comes to that. So you start by attracting attention.
Mm, that's great. That's great. Now, let's say I've attracted attention. What do I do now? So I've got the irregular thing. I'm interesting. People are following me. What do I do? What do I do now?
Great. So capturing attention is only the first part. Now let's do like a litmus test. Put a two in the chat if something online has captured your attention, but then you just like you stop, but then you scroll past. So it's like, okay, what is this? You stop and then you just scroll, you sort of just scroll past it. Put a number two in the chat if that's you. That happens to me all day. In fact, when people scroll on, well, the reason why people are scrolling on Facebook and stuff like that, Bobby, if you really think about it, the reason why they're like doing what's called doom scrolling is because they're looking for interesting stuff. Like you're looking for interesting stuff. So you might see something that capture your attention. You're like, okay, whatever. Scroll past. And you, you see something else, you check it, you click it, you watch it. All right, whatever. You scroll past. You see something else, you check it, not interesting. And then you keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. The reason why you're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling is because you need to get to step number two, which is you need to create curiosity. So how can you create curiosity around your content? So going back to that video I was talking about, like the guys, they look like they're on some kind of deserted island and they're building a pool or they're doing some kind of crazy stuff. I'm talking about those videos that pop up at like midnight and after 11 on Facebook. The reason why they capture our attention is because they create curiosity. So when I see that video, I'm like, okay, it's 11 p.m. What is going on? Why are these guys in a forest digging a hole in the middle of nowhere, and it looks like they're painting the ground to make a pool? That cannot be true. So they create curiosity in your mind. After you capture attention, you create curiosity. Now, notice, Bobby, I haven't even gotten to the copywriting yet. I'm just talking about the content. I'm talking about the photo or the video. So if you're a content creator, which all of us are, your first step is to master attention, curiosity via your photo or video. So if you're producing photos right now, because check this out, how many of you have written interesting blogs, but then nobody reads it, nobody likes it? It's because the thumbnail that you're putting out, it doesn't capture attention. It doesn't capture attention and create curiosity, which would make somebody want to read the copy.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Like if I have to choose between 1,000 posts, I'm looking for the most interesting post. And so I'm looking for the post that capture my attention. And once you capture my attention, you have like 2 seconds to create curiosity. And once you create that curiosity, and there are a couple ways you can do that. Okay, so maybe by revealing a secret, presenting a paradox, presenting insider knowledge, providing identifications or indicators of the ideal client's desire. So if your ideal client likes wealth, let's say like Dr. Michelle. So Dr. Michelle is all about living inspired, free, and transform. How can you show that in your content? How can you put a video that shows indicators of that, or a photo that shows indicators of that? And can you do something a little bit irregular, a little bit informational, a little bit more interesting in that photo that would create curiosity? Like what is going on? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw a photo the other day. I'll give you an example. I saw a photo the other day from a guy. In my opinion, he's a master of this. He's on my timeline. I read all of his posts because he's just great at this. He posted a photo of his wife, and they're standing outside of their building. Like they have a building, a huge building, brick and mortar for their business. And he has his hand, and he's holding his wife's back, like he's touching her back, and they're just looking at the building. They're both facing, like their backs are facing the camera, and I'm like, what's going on? So I'm like, what's going on? Why is he looking at the building? Why are they faced this way? What are they talking about? So number one, like he captures my attention right there. Number two, I'm like, what's going on in this picture? So then I have to go and read the post to find out. And then the post, it has a headline, it's interesting, it tells a story, and at the end of it, he tells a joke, which is, I think the joke was like, women often have our backs, but it was something like, they cannot trust us, something like that. Women have a hard time trusting men to watch their back, something like that. But it was like a joke. It was funny. The post got like over 1,000 likes, maybe over 2,000 likes, because it was just organic, interesting, funny. It was a long form post. He told a story. He had cliffhangers. He had hooks. It was absolutely amazing. But the way that I even read that post was that I had to stop because of the imagery. It created curiosity, and then I read the copy.
Mhm.
Make sense?
Yeah, this is great. You said something there, cliffhangers and hooks. Could you talk a little bit about that? I know we haven't dove into the copy side yet, but a lot of people need to know how to hold on to attention. And it sounds like these cliffhangers and hooks are a part of that. So if you get them, one, to stop scrolling, that's your first objective. And then two, to be curious enough to read what you have to say. Once they start reading, how do these cliffhangers and hooks work together to get them to the bottom of that post, or at least to the CTA, which is the call to action, if there is one?
Yeah, because those cliffhangers and hooks, the point of copy is to be like a slide. So if you take your kids to the park, there's slides everywhere, right? So the point is, like, once you get on that slippery slope, there's no going back up. Like once you start reading, you like the user should not be able to want to go back up, because the headline is leading you to the introduction is leading you to the body is leading you to, like, each paragraph is making you want to read the next paragraph, the next paragraph, the next paragraph. Now, I would say the cliffhangers work really well because cliffhangers allude to more information. So all throughout that post, he's alluding to something, but he's not exactly telling you what it is. And you can tell he's alluding to something, and you could tell he's building up. There's build up in the post. So you could tell that he's building up to something, but you just don't know what it is until you get to the bottom. And that's what makes it so interesting. And when you get to the bottom, now this is very important. Very important. So check this out. When you present something, you're making a promise. So when you present a post, you're making a promise. When the user gets to that post, you want to fulfill on that promise. Because if you don't fulfill on that promise, you now become a liar in the eyes of the reader. So the next time you post something, they're not going to read it because, like, oh, whatever, this
Yeah.
is just a waste of my time. So you want to be able to present something and fulfill on that promise somewhere towards the end. But I would say, the way you create attention and curiosity is, using cliffhangers is basically by alluding to more information, opening information gaps, giving specific details, and literally just alluding to more and more and more and more information by building up the energy in the post until you get to the end where you actually solve that curiosity. So you actually give them the answer at the end.
Wow. Now, Junior, I know you are a wizard. You're right, a wizard when it comes to these chat GPT bots and creating copy, right? Now, you might not say that about yourself, but I think you did a phenomenal job with some of the things that you've done inside of the communities. And I think it's definitely top tier. So with that being said, how well can someone depend on Chat GPT, or I think there's another one called Gemini, just little things like that? How reliable are these AI features in achieving this attention and connection, curiosity, and all these different things? Like, are they as good as people would think they are, or would like to think they are, or are there some serious gaps that people need to know about?
I would say if you're a copywriter, you can use it. But somebody who's not a copywriter, they're gonna use ChatGPT and not get the same results.
Mm.
So the AI can come very close to an actual copywriter, but it would take an actual copywriter programming the AI to write like them. But if you just use like a regular program, it's not gonna come out as good because you're not a writer. You don't know the psychological inputs required to take the copy to the next level. Like copywriting is not about writing. It's about strategy. It's about research. It's about, it's like the art of war using writing. Literally, it's like the art of war using writing. So you can use an AI program, but if you're not a copywriter, you're not gonna get the same effect as a copywriter would. Like I could use ChatGPT and it comes out better than the regular person, would ever do, because they don't necessarily know the psychological triggers. They don't understand the audience. They don't understand the pattern. Because remember, AI is input, output. So if the input is not good, the output doesn't come out good. So in order for you to get the right input, you have to understand what you're actually doing.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
So, wow, we're already at half an hour. So let's go to the break, Junior. And then when we get back, I've got a question about how to start taking the next steps, because a lot of people that I talk to, at least, they don't know where to start selling something. So marketing is senior to the sale, meaning that you've got to be able to market what you're selling. And a lot of people know the term sell the sizzle, not the steak, but they don't really know what that means. So like when we get back, I'd love for us to dive into how to think about marketing. And because we've covered kind of some of the technical aspects of marketing, how to execute different marketing strategies and different tactics, but really how business owners should think about marketing and entrepreneurs should think about marketing when it comes to selling is something I definitely like us to touch on as we move forward.
I said Shaan Ride East. I'm proud. That's Shaan Ride East. Leadership is not the brand they made for us.
Listen, he brought fire, heat. He didn't hold back.
20 years down the line, what I could sell, why not serve first? Service over salary. Branding like a leader closes the gap for people who want branding. Speaking like a leader closes the gap for people who are nervous about speaking. If Steve Jobs would have speculated, we wouldn't have Apple.
He changed lives. He helped people open up their business and start their business.
We are the brand. Some people say, Shaan, should I quit my job? Mentally, yes.
As a speaker too, to be able to learn from him and watch him and game respects game. And I want to have that much game someday.
The right client, pay $500,000 for what you do. You have to be bold in your beliefs.
He has been an amazing asset to this event and a pleasure to work with. Very captivating, collaborative, worked very well with the audience.
I want to help you. Put a 0 behind your number, right?
The session was great. How he is online, virtually, he is even more phenomenal in person.
Be the face of change that you want to see. Stop asking questions and start giving demands.
The entire team has just been absolutely incredible. They are a joy to work with. They go above and beyond.
Give yourself a round of applause. Yes, yes, yes.
Right, guys. So welcome back. We're talking about marketing. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments. Bobby, let's get back into it.
Yes. So my question for you is, what are the pros and cons to pre-selling? Now, we're not having a sales conversation, but we're having a marketing conversation. And when it comes to pre-sales, that's all marketing as far as I'm concerned. Am I right or wrong? For one, like pre-sales is there's no product right now, so to speak. The product may be in development or under production, and you are collecting cash solely based on the efficiency of the marketing, the ability to convince the prospect that this is exactly what they need, to convey the effectiveness of the proposed solution, and to inspire trust and confidence in the person enough to have them give you money in exchange for a product that's not even ready. So what are some of the pros and cons to pre-selling, and what role does marketing play in that?
Well, I mean, pre-selling something is, I mean, it's exactly what it says. You're selling something before it comes out. The pros to that is you have, I guess, initial capital. You get to collect capital. Um, the cons to that is there's a lot of pressure now to deliver. There's a lot of pressure to deliver, and you have to fulfill on that promise. You absolutely have to fulfill on that promise. So if you pre-sell something and then you don't deliver it, your audience will never trust you again.
Right.
So you're taking a huge risk. If you know you can't produce something, then pre-sell it. But if not, then I would probably stay away from that.
hmm And from a marketing standpoint now, if you do decide to pre-sale, what pressure does that put on a marketer? Is it harder to market something that you've not seen before or that you haven't touched before? Or is it a matter of taking the CEO's vision and just crafting the message that connects?
I mean, it can be just from a tactical standpoint because I mean, you don't have things like testimonials.
Mhm.
If you never sold something, you don't necessarily have testimonials about that product, but there are other levers that you could pull in order to create the same type of effect. So I would say to an expert marketer, it's not more difficult. It's literally just the same. You just
Mhm.
have to figure out the positioning, the angle, etc., etc. But it's not tougher, no.
You said something there, Junior. You said if you've never sold anything, you do not have the testimonials and things of that nature. Now, many people in our audience are professionals. They are looking to get into entrepreneurship, or they may be leaders and executives in their company and they're looking to build their own company. So many of them maybe have not sold anything of their own. They're getting into that for the first time. And
Yeah.
they're very skilled in what they do profession wise, but they're not necessarily skilled entrepreneurs or marketers. So with this reality, what would you recommend to someone that is one, new to marketing, two, has never sold anything? Like how should they approach the marketing requirements for any business, because they need to post, they need copy, they need to sell, they need calls to action, and they don't necessarily know how to do those things, and they've not necessarily sold the product before. Like, what do they do?
I'll give it away for free.
Mhm.
I'll give it away. Like if you've never, and this is not even marketing, this is just business in general. If you've never done anything, if you don't have any success stories, give it away for free. Because honestly, you don't know if you're good. You cannot ethically sell something if you don't know you're good. Like if you're not good at it, then you're literally messing up your reputation. So I would just give it away for free. And then once I'm certain, and by the way, here's a quick strategy you can use that I've used before. If you're launching something new, you can give it away for free. Let's say you open it up to like 10 people, have them go through what's called an incubator program. When they go through that program, you collect the testimonials from the 10 people who go through that program. Then you relaunch the program now with 10 fresh testimonials, and you get in some more people for like 80% off. People come in 80% off, they go through the program, you get their testimonials, you relaunch at 60% off. Same process, you relaunch at 40% off. Then you relaunch at 20% off. Then you relaunch at full price. By the time you get to full price, having gone through this thing like 5 times, you would have been able to perfect, to find out where you're making errors, to find out what you could do better, to find out the little gaps that you have that are making you not confident about stating your price. And you would have already had the marketing material to effectively put out content, okay, that's going to help you to take your business to another level.
Mm.
So that's literally what I would do. Now, once you have that, then you would have the authority to be able to market. So in marketing, you have to have some kind of authority. You have to have either have like organizational backing, testimonials. You have to have a story that validates your claims. So you have to give the copywriter, some kind of ammunition. Otherwise, it's going to be very tough to sell.
Mhm. You said another interesting thing there. You said to market, you must have some kind of authority. I want you
Yeah.
guys to write that down. Write that down. I remember when we were going through the 10 PD framework and Shaan was talking about authorship. Those that don't know what the 10 PD framework is, it's just something that's inside of Branded Like a Leader, shows you how to write a book in 30 days. It's a phenomenal asset to have. So when you write that book, an author has authority. It's in the name, it's in the title, right? So as an author, you can market with a different positioning. So for you, Junior, what are some things that can help create authority for these new entrepreneurs? Like, so you said they could have corporate backing. I just said that you can write a book. Are there any other things that they can do? You also said they can put their products out there. Are those like the top 3 things, or is there anything else that these guys could do to think outside of the box and achieve authority in the marketplace?
Leverage your numbers. Everybody has numbers. So I want you to write this down. Literally, everybody has this. How many years have you been in your niche? Write that number down. Once you've written that down, I want you to write down this next number. How many people have you impacted through your work? And by the way, this is not in your business. This is just through your work. So if you've been in, let's say, this industry for 15 years, how many people do you think you've impacted through your work in this industry? Now, if you're in a place where you're generating revenue for a business, I write an estimate. How much money do you estimate that you've generated for the businesses that you've worked, that you've been a part of? Okay, write this down. What reputable organizations or notable organizations have you worked with in the past?
Mhm.
Now, if you're writing this down, which you should have a couple interesting statistics here. So people might say, well, maybe I was a therapist. Well, I've been in therapy for 15 years. That 15 years, that can go on your website, Bobby. That can go, underneath the banner on your site. That can go on your page. If maybe as a therapist, you've seen, let's say, thousands of people. Let's say 5,000 people over 15 years. Write down 5,000 people impacted. So you've impacted 5,000 plus people through your work. Maybe you've generated $10 million over the span of your career for your organization. So you could write that down. 10 million. You've generated $10 million for organizations. Now, what are these numbers for? These numbers are for building your credibility in the market. So everybody has different points of credibility. It's just that everybody is not leveraging those points of credibility. That's all it is. Like, you're not thinking about it in the right way. So you don't say that, you know, for example, so let's say I'm marketing something. How you say things is very important. So you don't say, like, if you've generated, let's just say $9 million, you don't say I've generated 9.5 million. You say I've generated approximately $10 million. Like the way you word things, the way you say things is very important. But every single person, if you're an expert at what you do, you most likely have these hidden numbers that you're just not leveraging because you don't think about them. Like if you're going live online, how many people have you reached? So if you could go on Facebook, maybe you have a Facebook page where you're doing like little ads here and there, you're putting out content, doing live stuff, and Facebook will tell you, okay, this live reach 1,000 people, this live reach X number of people, this live reach X number of people. Add that up. So how many total number of people have you reached? Okay, so maybe through your lives over the last 24 months, maybe you've reached 50,000 people. So you could say 50,000 people impacted or 50,000 people reached. How many followers do you have across your social media? If you have 10,000 followers or 20,000 followers on all platforms combined, you could say 20,000 plus followers online. So these are little ways you could start to build your credibility online. If you have any degrees, maybe you have a PhD, maybe you have a master's degree, you could also leverage that. That's another point of credibility. If you've written a white paper, what organizations have you spoken at? Have you spoken at organizations before? Have you participated in workshops before? Have you helped people before? And if you've helped people in the past, can you go back to those people that you've helped and ask them for a testimonial? If you can, then you do that. And that's going to further build your authority and credibility.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this here, Junior, is really good. I like this because it reminds me of something Shaan taught. He said, if you're a 5, help the 3s and the 4s. If you're a 6, help the 5s and the 4s. If you're an 8, help the 7s, the 6s, the 5s. Now, what he was saying was everybody can help somebody. Imagine that. Everybody can help somebody. I was just watching my daughter yesterday. We were playing hide and seek. Okay, I've got 2 daughters. And one of my daughters, which is about 12 months older than my other daughter, maybe less than that, goes back, and as we're playing hide and go seek, she says, daddy coming, grabs her sister and pulls her. She pulls her. She's no more than 10 months older than her. But she takes this ownership. She takes responsibility, grabs the younger daughter that can also walks clearly slower. It's not as mechanically coordinated yet, and says, daddy coming, run. That reinforced the reality that everybody can help somebody. You can be 12 months ahead of someone and have $10,000 worth of value to give them if it'll save them a year of time. Like a year, like really think about a year, 12 months. That's valuable. 12 months of a human life is valuable. And if you can say, I know something that you don't know, and if you know it, it will save you time, money, and energy, there's somebody willing to pay for it. That's just my conviction. That's my conviction. So with what you said to me, Junior, I take it like this. I need to take all my numbers and I need to put them together. I need to, like, if I was getting started, I would take all of my numbers, put them together, and start creating my credibility beacon, my credibility beacon. Once I create this credibility beacon, I'm then going to go out and find who is looking to do what I've done. Pretty much, like if I made a business investment, like you got, like just as much as you want to think big, you got to think microscopic, because there's dollars in the details. I didn't say think small. I said think microscopic. Like when you think big, you're doing one thing. When you think microscopic, you're doing another thing. Thinking big is stretching you. It's helping you to see further, think more creatively, overcome obstacles through faith. Like there's a reason we think big, but we don't want to think small. Like thinking small is when you are thinking about something. You could think about it bigger, but you choose not to, or for whatever reason you don't believe you can. Like thinking small just doesn't help usually. But thinking microscopically, now that's you saying, okay, I thought big, and now I'm looking at every little thing that goes into making that big idea a reality. And the reason I think thinking microscopically is very important is because if you take Junior's advice and you say, okay, what have I done? And you think as big as you possibly can. And then you take this perspective that I'm giving you, and then you think of the smallest needle mover, the smallest thing that you could do that could move the needle for someone, and you turn that into a minimum viable product, you got something to sell. And you've got credibility on which to sell it. So I just thought that was really cool, Junior. Really, really insightful. So as I ask the next question, if someone does what you just suggested, they take all their numbers and they put their credibility together, then they do what I've suggested and they think of the smallest needle mover that they can put together. They get their minimum viable product. Like, hey, if I do this for you, it will move the needle. Like once they've got that MVP, what's the next step? So they've got the credibility, they've got the minimum viable product, they have a decent understanding of the necessity of grabbing attention, or the need rather for grabbing the requirement. That's what I was looking for. They have a understanding of the requirement needed for attention, curiosity. Like they've got all these things now. What's the next step? Like what now?
I mean, the next step is to start getting people coming through the door. You have to start collecting leads. So then you put out content. Now, to collect leads, you need a lead magnet. So you need a lead magnet. That's it. So you have to have somewhere to drive that traffic. If you're building, let's just say like brand awareness, then that's one thing. But if you're looking to make sales, you have to capture leads. The only way you make sales, the only way you're gonna make money is if you have leads. That's it. Like no leads, no money. No leads, no money. So yeah, that's what you do, Bobby. You have to capture leads.
Nice. And with the leads that you capture through your lead magnet, could you share with the people a few common lead magnets? I know ebooks are common. What else is out there that's like simple, common, and won't cost an arm and a leg to get it done?
Newsletter. So a newsletter, white paper. Nowadays, I think you could use apps like Score app to create assessments.
What was that app again?
Score app, I believe that's the name. So Score app, you could create assessments, um, free consults,
Mm.
checklists, frameworks, stuff like that. So any basic, like anything you could give them away. But here's the important thing though. A lead magnet, people think a lead magnet is like once you could make an ebook, it's a lead magnet. No, 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 no. Write this down. Please write this down. Otherwise, you'll be doing a lead magnet in vain. A lead magnet is a complete solution to a narrow problem. It's a complete solution to a narrow problem. So your lead magnet has to solve a problem. It has to solve a problem. It's a complete solution, but you're solving a narrow problem. So for example, a narrow problem would be finding out who your ideal client is. That's a big problem. In fact, almost every entrepreneur has that problem. I might put out a lead magnet, which is like an assessment or some kind of process that helps people to find out who that ideal client is for them. That's a lead magnet because that's a complete solution. And I mean, it gives them the actual document with the ideal client and everything. That is a complete solution to a narrow problem. Does that make sense? Like that's a complete solution to a narrow problem. If you just put out an ebook, just to put out an ebook, it doesn't solve any problem. What problem is it solving? And if it does solve a problem or attempt to solve a problem, does it solve the problem all the way, or does it still leave questions in the mind of the person that's reading it? That's something to consider. Because if I come to your, it's like if I come to your restaurant, Bobby, and you bring me, let's say, some restaurants you go to, they'll give you free food. Like before you even order, they'll bring something to your table and they'll say, "Hey, compliments of the chef." They give you something. So let's say they brought you, let's say like some restaurants. The last one I went to brought me like this nice French bread and butter, just to kick it off, and they give you a little tea or something like that. If that lead magnet, like if that bread and butter like sucked, do you think I would order food from the restaurant? No, I would not, because if the entree is not good, why would I order the main course?
Mhm.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't compute. So if you're producing a lead magnet, one of the highest leverage things you can do is make sure you have a killer lead magnet. Like you have a really good, really, really good lead magnet. Okay. Because if the lead magnet is not good, the prospect can correctly assume that the rest of the value that you provide is not good, or it's not as good as it needs to be to solve their problem. If the lead magnet solves the problem, the first problem, then they will believe that whatever else you have to offer will solve the next problem.
That's amazing. One thing that I'm thinking is how to, I think everybody should write a list of their ideal clients' narrow problems, just to have a list of lead magnets to create. That's what I wrote down. Like, I'm literally going to do that exercise. Like, after this call, sometime today, I'm going to just sit down and think about the narrow problems that can be solved completely with one lead magnet. Imagine if you came up with like 10 of those and you got to choose which one. I'm sure everybody watching this that has a thorough understanding of their ideal client can identify at least 5 narrow problems that can be completely solved with either an ebook, newsletter, checklist, framework, or something like that. So that would be what I would recommend to everybody is, if you have a minimum viable product that you're ready to sell and you know what that MVP is designed to sell or designed to solve, what solution that MVP creates, identify the small, narrow pockets that lead up to that. All of them, as many as you can, and then build the lead magnet around. At least this would be my suggestion, is build a lead magnet around the one that creates the most noticeable benefit the fastest. The most noticeable benefit the fastest, because you can solve a lot of narrow problems, but if they don't notice the benefit, they might not perceive the value properly. But if you can solve the problem quickly and noticeably, I think you've got a really good chance at getting that customer, or at least having a conversation with them to move them further through the sales pipeline.
I agree. And also, the way I think of it, I'll think of it on like a sliding scale. So, for example, the people that I work with, they have one thing in mind. They want to attract customers. Like that's the big promise. But in order to attract customers, there are a couple steps that you absolutely have to go through. So the lead magnet should be aimed at solving the first step in that process. So in other words, if you want to market, your first step is to find out who you're marketing to. Like you can't market if you don't know who you're talking to. So the lead magnet that I would put out would be a complete solution to solving who the ideal client is. Okay. Once you can do that, once you solve one problem, another problem often pops up. It's called the problem solution cycle. Solving one problem or providing a solution to one problem introduces another problem. So if I solve the idle client issue for you, be like, okay, now that I have my idle client, what do I do next? Like, how do I start to write posts that can talk to them? Hence the next solution, which is where you make the sale. So the sale is the solution, is the next solution. So in other words, I've helped you to figure out the idle client. You want to write copy that is going to talk to them, you have to pay. Very simple. You can take the profile I gave you and you try to figure it out on your own, or you can let me do it for you. And that's how you do it, Bobby. So you solve literally like the first step. So if I were you, let's say somebody is hiring a CFO because let's just suppose that they want to increase the bottom line revenue. Let's just suppose that the first step to doing that is being able to identify unnecessary expenses. That's literally the first step. So your lead magnet should be something. It could be a free call, could be, a checklist, could be something, anything that would allow them to identify, like completely identify and remove like unnecessary expenses that are draining their bottom line. Once you solve that problem completely, then it becomes okay, Bobby, we've removed these expenses that are draining our bottom line. What do we do next? And that's when you get the sale. That's when you say, okay, now that you've done that, you're ready for the next step, which is to do this. Now, in order to get that, you're going to have to pay something.
Mhm.
And then you could introduce either a low ticket offer at that point, or if you're very good and you're great at sales, you could do a high ticket offer as well. So that's
That's really good. I know we're at the top of the hour, so we can go ahead and close out here. But what I would say as closing remarks for me was that is literally how I've made most of my money in business. It started out as a free giveaway, solving a problem. Then it went to a low ticket, mid ticket. I never really had a low ticket offer, but believe it or not, as you build, you create low ticket offers. Most people that I know that are successful in business didn't start with low ticket offers. They started with a high ticket offer to get revenue in, and then they worked backwards. So that's just a hack. So I would start off with a free service. Then I would give them a mid tier one-off solution, and then I would move them towards a large ticket or a high ticket, or what's it called, retainer model, subscription or retainer. But yeah, we're over the 9 a.m. However, I just wanted to share that with you guys. Like, it works. I've done it for years and I still do it to this day. Junior, you put on a clinic today, brother. Absolute clinic.
Thank you, guys. And guys, if you enjoyed this show, put some flames in the chat. All right, just put some flames in the chat. And if you want to learn more about how you could implement these strategies, you need to come on the inside. So here's a perfect lead magnet. So I've given you all of what I've given you today. Here's the kicker. If you want to learn more about this stuff, come inside of the Branded Like a Leader Academy. You get there, just go to www.shawnrise.com, type in brandedlikealeader.com, and you will be directed to a place where you could sign up to talk to somebody like myself or Bobby, where we will give you more information about that. Obviously, there's a lot more to this I can't discuss here. If you want to learn more, come on the inside. Okay? Don't stay outside. Come on the inside. In fact, tonight, Bobby, I'll actually be talking about they're putting the world on notice. So we'll be starting to dive into social media and how we could start to create and just sort of preparing the business to really and truly start marketing themselves online. So if you want to learn about that, go to www.shawnrise.com, schedule a call with me or with Bobby or with anybody else on the team and ask about that. Have a phenomenal day and speak soon. Let's grow.
Let's go.